Okay, guten Tag und willkommen. I think most of you in this room know me, but for those who are online who don't know me, I am Dr. Corinne Connolly. I am chair of the Department of World Languages and Literatures here at Northern Kentucky University, and I'm also a Spanish professor, and in general, a lover of languages and other cultures. So on behalf of the Department of World Languages and Literatures and all of our event co-sponsors, which include the Office of the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, the Department of Biological Sciences, the Department of Communication, the Department of Economics and Finance, the Department of English, the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, and Philosophy, the Center for Global Engagement and International Affairs, the Office of LGBTQA+ Student Initiatives, and the Scripps Howard Center for Civic Engagement, I would like to welcome you to our 2021 German American Day Lecture. I would also like to extend our deep gratitude to all of our co-sponsors for supporting this event. Our speaker this year is Axel M. Hochrein, on the screen, from the Lesbian and Gay Federation of Germany. Mr. Hochrein was born in 1963 in Würzburg, Bavaria, and was the Deputy National Chairman of the Lesbian and Gay Union from 2001 until 2009. He has been a member of the National Board of the LSBD, Lesbian and Gay Federation of Germany, since 2003, where he has been responsible for diverse nationwide campaigns by the Federation. In 2007, he was one of the original donors to the Hirschfeld-Eddy Foundation, a foundation for the human rights of lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgender people, and has been a member of the foundation's board since then. Since 2012, he has represented the LSBD on the Board of Trustees of the National Magnus Hirschfeld Foundation, which was established in 2011 by the Federal Republic of Germany. In 2020, he was appointed to the board of the Elisabeth Selbert Initiative, a protection program for human rights defenders. A holder of a degree in business administration and an entrepreneur, he now lives with his husband Andreas near Würzburg. And pardon any butchering of the German language to all of you who are native speakers or students of the language. The topic of his talk today is From Criminal Code into the Constitution, the Emancipation of LGBTQ in Germany. Please give a warm welcome to our speaker, Axel M. Hochrein. Here with us, Axel.
Sorry, now, yes. So good afternoon and good evening from Germany to you all. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me for this lecture and for the very kind introduction. And thank you to Andrea for our really great work together that we can do this today. I really appreciate. Germany experiences exciting days in the moment, as you may have heard, after the elections 1 week ago. After 16 years with Angela Merkel as Chancellor, we still don't know who will be her successor in office, as well as we don't know what ruling coalition is next. From the point of view of the LGBTQ community, we do have preferences, of course, as the history of our emancipation towards legal and social equality was too often blocked by conservative politics. And about this and this history, I want to give you some information this afternoon. But first of all, I would like to start with a very short introduction of my organization, the Lesbian and Gay Federation in Germany, which is a kind of umbrella organization for the German LGBTQ community. Our association was founded in 1990 in Leipzig in Eastern Germany, in the last days of the German Democratic Republic before the reunification of the two German states. While in the German Democratic Republic, the criminalization of homosexuality was abolished at that time, in the Federal Republic of Germany, Article 175 Criminal Code was still in force. So there was the danger that criminalization of homosexuality would exist in the reunified Germany. To prevent this, was one of the founding ideas of our association. But it lasted 4 more years until 1994, when, as part of the process of the reunification, that paragraph 175 officially and completely disappeared from the law books. This was, by the way, one rare instance in which the laws of the German Democratic Republic would go on to influence the laws of a unified Germany. From the beginning, the aims of our organizations were equal rights for same-sex couples, marriage equality, non-discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity, constitutional protection of sexual identity, and full social participation and acceptance of LGBTQ life plans. The LSVD has today about 5,000 personal members and over 100 member organizations from the LGBTQ community in Germany. And even if a lot has improved for our community in the last years and decade, we are not finished with our work. But let's go one step at a time and start at the beginning. The state-controlled persecution of homosexuals was introduced with the founding of the German Empire in 1871, when the penal code of the North German Confederation became the penal code of the entire German Empire. By this change, sexual intercourse between men and only between men became a punishable offense. Its best known parts read, I quote, "An unnatural sex act committed between persons of male sex or humans with animals is punishable by imprisonment. The loss of civil rights might also be imposed," quote end. Those convicted under paragraph 175 could face a prison term of up to 6 months. During the times of the empire, organized opposition against this law began with the founding of the Scientific Humanitarian Committee in 1897, through the physician and sexologist Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld. But this Scientific Humanitarian Committee, an organization of notables rather than a mass movement, tried to proceed against paragraph 175 based on the thesis of the innate nature of homosexuality. The Scientific Humanitarian Committee is widely regarded as the world's first organization devoted to advancing the social rights of gay, bisexual, and transgender men and women. Years later, with the advent of the Weimar Republic in 1919, Hirschfeld founded Berlin's Institute of Sexology, the first attempt to establish sexology or sexual science as a topic of legitimate academic study and research. It was from his position as head of the institute that Hirschfeld actively campaigned against paragraph 175. It is reported that Hirschfeld, nicknamed the Einstein of sex, set up the committee in his apartment in Western Berlin to campaign for the abolition of this paragraph. With Magnus Hirschfeld, as well as with August Bebel, the Social Party chairman of that time, there have been brought 2 petitions into the Reichstag, the German parliament at that time, urging the deletion of paragraph 175, but both failed to achieve the desired effect. So even Hirschfeld failed in this mission to invalidate paragraph 175, in no small measure because of opposition from the upcoming Nazi party in the parliament, but he contributed plenty to making Berlin the undisputed capital of homosexuality in the world. According to one report, in Berlin, 30 different newspapers were published for a homosexual readership. Worldwide, there were only 2 others, one in Chicago and the other one in Paris. Indeed, so directly associated homosexuality came to be with Berlin that the French referred to homosexuality back then as the German vice, and in Italy, a gay person was called Berlinesse. Very fast after coming to power in 1933, the Nazis crushed the organizations of the homosexual rights movement of the Weimar Republic. Associations were disbanded, meeting places and publishers shut down. Homosexual men and women, but especially gay men, found themselves as target of the Nazi Party attempt to remake German society. In 1933, Nazi brown shirts raided the Institute of Sexual Science and basically destroyed the place. The institute's books and papers were burned in the street in a huge bonfire. Hirschfeld himself escaped the raid. At that time, he was visiting France, where he remained for the rest of his life. Soon thereafter, in 1933, the Gestapo, the secret state police, set up a special unit to persecute homosexuals by compiling so-called pink lists of suspected homosexuals. In 1935, the Nazis exacerbated paragraph 175 by redefining the crime as a felony and thus increasing the maximum penalty from 6 months to 5 years imprisonment. Further, by removing the adjective widernatürlich, which means against nature, they removed the long-time tradition that the law applied only to penetrative intercourse. A criminal offense would now exist if, I quote, objectively the general sense of shame was offended and subjectively the debauched intention was present to excite sexual desire in one of the two men or a third, quote end. Beyond that, a new paragraph 175a was created, punishing qualified cases, as translated severe lewdness, with no less than 1 year and no more than 10 years in the penitentiary. These severe lewdness included sexual relations with a subordinate or employee in a work situation, homosexual acts with men under the age of 21, and male prostitution. According to the official rationale, paragraph 175 was amended in the interest of the moral health of the Volk, the German people, because according to experience, homosexuality inclines toward bleak-like propagation and exerts a ruinous influence on the circles concerned, as is reading. This aggravation of the severity of paragraph 175 increased the number of convictions tenfold to 8,000 convictions annually. Only about a half of the prosecutions resulted from police work. About 40% resulted from private accusations by non-participating observers, and about 10% were denouncements by employers or institutions. So, to give you an example, in 1938, the Gestapo received the following anonymous letter. I quote, "We, a large part of the artists' bloc, ask you urgently to observe Mr. B, living with Mrs. F as subtenant, who has remarkable daily visits from young men. This must not continue. We ask you cordially to give the matter further observation," quote end. In contradistinction to normal police, the Gestapo was authorized to take gay men into preventive detention, in Germany, Schutzhaft, of arbitrary duration without an accusation. This was often the fate of so-called repeat offenders. At the end of their sentences, they were not freed but sent for additional re-education in a concentration camp. Only about 40% of these pink triangle prisoners survived the camps. From today's view, It's unbelievable but true. Some of them who survived the concentration camps after their release by the Allied forces were placed back in prison because they had not yet finished court-mandated terms of imprisonment for homosexual acts. Between 1935 and 1945, the National Socialist judicial system condemned around 50,000 men for homosexual acts. After the end of World War II, the world remained blissfully ignorant about what Holocaust scholar Günter Grau has referred as a hidden Holocaust. This ignorance was enabled by a situation unlike any other, faced by any of the groups systematically targeted by the Nazis. For one thing, after World War II came to an end, homosexuals were still regarded as criminals rather than as victims of tyrannical regime. So while the Allied armies quickly moved to free tens of thousands of survivors in the Nazi concentration camps, including Jews, Gypsies, and communists, homosexual prisoners were forced to serve out the entirety of their sentence, regardless of the time served in the Nazi concentration camps. The post-war legal system of the young Federal Republic of Germany was of very little help. After 1949, the Federal Republic did not continue the comparatively liberal tradition of the Weimar Republic in its policy towards homosexuals. For 2 decades, a conservative federal government dominated the political scene. The social policy of the Adenauer area was characterized by near fundamentalist Christian prudery. Homosexuals were considered to be a danger to the family, to the society, and to the state. The Nazi version of paragraph 175 remained in force, not the version of the German Empire, unchanged until 1969. The law was also ruthlessly applied. The federal courts condemned another 50,000 men for unnatural sex acts during this period. For this reason, the German historian Hans-Joachim Schöps commented bitterly in 1963 that, I quote, "For homosexuals, the Third Reich is not yet ended," quote end. Only in 1969, after the Social Democratic Party of Germany, the SPD, entered the federal government for the first time, was homosexuality between adults decriminalized. The age of consent, however, remained higher than that for heterosexuals. This discriminatory special provision for homosexuality was not scrapped until 1994. The homophobia of the times also kept homosexual survivors of the Nazi regime from sharing their experience with the rest of the world. This meant, while Jews and other victims of the Nazi regimes were able to talk candidly about their experience as victims of Nazism, a significant step in the victims coping with the horrors inflicted by the time served in the concentration camps, this was not the case of homosexuals. In fact, many survivors were forced to repress their memory of the past in the best way they could. And this included destroying all records or artifacts that could have identified them as homosexuals for fear of further tribulation. Attempts to restore the reputation of the victims of paragraph 175 did not receive majority support in parliament or society for many years. Only in 2002 did the Bundestag repeal the sentences which the Nazis imposed on homosexuals. The parliaments also explicitly apologized to homosexual citizens for the prosecutions of the Federal Republic. But it was not until 2017 that the men who were convicted in the Federal Republic of Germany under Section 175 were also rehabilitated. On the occasion of the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the memorial for the homosexuals persecuted under National Socialism, it was Federal President Steinmeier who said something long overdue in his speech. I quote, "As Federal President, one thing is important to me today. Your country made you wait too long. We are running late. What has been said to other groups of victims has so far been denied to you. So today I ask for forgiveness for all the suffering and injustice that have occurred and for the long silence that followed." Quote end. The National Socialists had crushed the homosexuals' rights movement. And after the war, the few surviving activists could no longer continue the earlier tradition. Attempts to organize themselves in a lasting fashion failed. The fact that homosexuality was still a criminal offense was a major contributing factor. Developments in Germany thus continued to lag behind Western and Northern Europe. In Scandinavia and the Netherlands, national gay organizations sprang up after the Second World War. When the Stonewall generation started to emerge in the early 70s, a productive relationship developed between the traditional civil associations and the radical activists. Large influential national associations emerged. For this reason, the Northern European countries developed as role models for Germany's community. Concerning LGBTQ emancipation, they have been far ahead and still today have a best practice influence on us. The fledgling German gay and lesbian movement of the 70s, on the other hand, sprang up in a homosexual policy no man's land. Its members initially knew nothing about Magnus Hirschfeld and the pioneers from before 1933. It was impossible to link public lobbying to the emancipatory approaches of the Stonewall generation. Instead, a deeply divided movement developed, which fought bitterly over the correct path to gay liberation. With the help and empowerment from foreign countries, the German community began his fight to remember those forgotten victims and to fight for a better future. The LSVD embraced from his onset an expensive reparation agenda, even though at the time in the 1990s, not many people wanted to talk about homosexual victims in Germany. Our agenda included an acknowledgement of past homosexual atrocities, compensation for the surviving victims of paragraph 175, and a monument to the homosexual victims at a planned Holocaust memorial next to the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. Befitted the reputation of the Holocaust as the 20th century's biggest human rights calamity, Germany gay reparation activists were aided in their efforts by a broad network of foreign allies, especially from Britain, Canada, and the United States. Indeed, gay activists from Britain began demanding reparations for homosexual victims of the Holocaust decades before they began demanding reparation for homosexuals prosecuted under British laws. American film director Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman gave a big boost to gay reparations in Germany with the release of paragraph 175, a 2001 documentary that shed light on the plight of the forgotten homosexual victims of the Holocaust. Advertised as maybe the last untold story of the Third Reich, the documentary featured the few surviving victims of Nazi concentration camps, including Heinz F., then 96 years old. He survived 8 years in concentration camps, but fear and repression during the post-war years kept him from revealing anything about his experience. With tears rolling down his face, he says, nobody wanted to hear about it. In the documentary, the survivors speak of being rearrested in the post-war period, of being denied compensation under compensatory programs, and of having their abusers get overlooked by the Nuremberg Tribunal. For ourselves, it sounds even unbelievable that abolishing that paragraph 175 first happened in 1994, not longer than 27 years ago. If you imagine that criminalization of homosexuality lasted 123 years in Germany, and that an effective political lobbying could only start after 1994, there was a catching up to other nations in Europe and over the world to the point where LGBTQ could live without fear and could fight for equal rights. And it wasn't an easy fight. There were few political allies at the beginning, and public opinion was not on our side. At the beginning of the 90s, almost 2/3 of the population in Germany were still opposed to homosexual marriage. The long-term government from Helmut Kohl and his Swiss Democratic Union blocked most of the attempts to get improvements to end the legal system, which made LGBTQ second-class citizens. And it lasted until 1998, when a coalition between Social Democrats and Bündnis 90 Die Grünen, the Greens, came in office until things really got moving. A big step was the introduction of the registered partnership for same-sex couples in 2001, fought by the conservatives before the Constitutional Court, but without success. Despite her commitment to liberal causes like human rights, undocumented immigrants, and climate change, the administration of Angela Merkel, in place since 2005 till the end of this year, is not known for her advocacy for LGBTQ rights. Largely to her party's opposition to marriage equality, the Christian Democratic Party, Germany was one of the last holdouts among Western major nations to legalize same-sex marriage. This happened only in 2017, later than Britain, France, and the United States, to say nothing of Spain, which began allowing same-sex couples to wed in 2005. Driven by the decision of the Constitutional Court, politics had to act in Germany. Between 2001 and 2017, there were 6 judgments that resulted in inequalities between heterosexual couples and same-sex couples being removed. In the end, Germany had 2 legal marriage institutions, one for heterosexual couples and one for the same-sex couples, which nearly had the same rights except for the rights of adoption. So the time was overdue, and there was a broad majority in the German parliament, even with more than 50 votes out of the Conservative Party. And due to continuous public relations work before that, there was a vital swing in public opinion. Representative surveys showed that nearly 80% of the German people agreed to the opening of marriage to same-sex couples. But with reaching this historical moment, the mission wasn't accomplished. To date, the necessary reform of transsexual law, the right of parentage, and legal regulations for intersex people have not been resolved. The amendment to our constitution for the protection of sexual orientation and gender identity is still open. Our constitution reflects the teaching from the National Socialists area by assigning the victims of National Socialism a particular high level of protection against discrimination. All victims except for homosexuals or non-heterosexual people. As I've pointed out, after the Second World War, there was no intention to end the persecution of these people, let alone to give them constitutional protection. If that had happened, the history of LGBTQ community in democratic Germany would have been different without suffering and persecution of so many people. In addition to the now irrefutable recognition that person's sexual identity is one of his guaranteed human rights, there's also a historical reason for the fixation. And last but not least, legal equality was achieved with simple laws that can be changed again if the political majority changes. Only the explicit mention in the Constitution guarantees the highest possible state protection. And this protection is not only long overdue, it's urgently needed. When Andrea and I discussed the title of today's event, it was in February, I was still hopeful that this goal would also be achieved by now. There was a bill in the parliament, in the Bundestag, and signals from liberal conservatives that gave hope that the necessary 2/3 majority will be achieved in parliament. But with the beginning of the election campaign around March, April, and the desire to distance oneself from the political opponent, it was finally shattered again. So we will fight again in the new legislation to finally achieve this goal. And with a possible government without the conservatives, the odds are better. How quickly popular political majorities and moods can change, driven by radical opinion makers, is a lesson we all over the world have learned over the past decade. We are experiencing a dramatic backlash in many countries in Eastern Europe that have made progress in their democratic process after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Influenced by the homophobic and trans-hostile legislation of Russia, there are several countries in which the rights of LGBTQ people are being curtailed again. Hungary, Poland, and Slovenia are members of the European Union. In these three states, laws are being planned or passed to limit the rights of LGBTQ people. That is a clear violation of the EU basic values and the European Human Rights Convention. Here, the governments of the other member states and the European Commission, as well as the European Parliament, must take action to prevent this or to undo. Only weeks ago, the EU Commission opens proceedings against Hungary and Poland for violating the fundamental rights of LGBTQ people. Members of the right-wing extremist party AfD, Alternative for Germany, have been sitting in the German state parliaments and in the Bundestag since 2017. They have not only radicalized the climate in the parliaments, but also on the streets. One of the first applications by the AfD in the Bundestag was to revoke the marriage of opening for same-sex couples. Homophobic hate speech and violence against gays and lesbians are increasing again in Germany. This is an alarming signal. As I said, this is a noticeable global development. If we look to Brazil or the global South in general, this development becomes visible. And this development must be fought and stopped by a coalition of states that are committed to upholding basic democratic values and human rights. All the more important is the commitment of President Biden and his administration to stand up for the rights of LGBTQ people. Indeed, President Biden's executive order extending civil rights protections to LGBTQ+ people is a major milestone for equality, not only for the US community, but in the fight for global decriminalization of homosexuality and strengthening the rights of transgender people. There are still 72 states in which homosexuality is prosecuted and 7 states in which the death penalty applies. A convincing commitment to the abolition of criminal legislation in these countries can only take place if the discrimination in one's own countries is ended and the protection of LGBTQ minority is guaranteed. And this is what we ask from our government in Germany too. The International Lesbian and Gay Association, ILGA, notes, I quote, "The 2021 Rainbow Europe map reveals widespread and almost complete stagnation on human rights of LGBTI people," quote end. In order to create a country ranking, ILGA Europe examined the laws and policies in 49 European countries, using a set of 6 main thematic categories: equality and non-discrimination, family, hate crime and hate speech, legal gender recognition and bodily integrity, civil society space, and asylum. In the result of the percentage evaluation, Germany just achieved more than 50% and is thus in the lower mid-range in European countries. Among the leading nations are Malta, Belgium, Luxembourg, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Spain. To give a practical example of the effect of this different legislation, while heterosexual marriages, of course, are recognized worldwide, same-sex marriages are not even recognized in all countries of the European Union, let alone in the whole world. As an LGBTQ activist, I have heard the annoyed question from heterosexual politicians over and over again in the last few decades. What else do you want? And the answer is always the same: not being punished or disadvantaged for how I live and how I feel, and especially not for how I love. Love deserves respect, and that is all I want. Thank you for your attention. I don't know if we have a discussion or something else with the moderation.
Yes, I think we may have lost our host, as Jordan mentioned. That may be the issue. It seems they may have dropped on accident.
Okay. So nevertheless, if any of you have any questions, I'm still here and happy to answer.
I do actually have a question. Thank you. I was wondering what further measures do you think would help if President Biden took for the LGBTQ community?
one of the most important things is making visible that a superpower, if I may say that, like the US is standing for LGBTQ rights. And as we demand from our president and from our chancellor, whenever he is in countries in which LGBTQ people are persecuted or the laws are below, they should first of all talk about that with the leaders, and they should perhaps invite activists to the official parts of their visit to show the importance of being there, and that other countries look at this topic of human rights very well. That helps enormous. And from that, what we hear from activists from other countries, this is a great empowerment, and that gives great security for those people who are often under pressure from their government.
I see. I understand. Thank you. I appreciate it.
For example, it was when we asked our foreign ministry that when he is in Arabic countries, he should address this topic, and he came back and that, yeah, that was at times when we had the marriage opening. Those people told them, yes, but you treat them equal, even not equal in Germany. So it's really important that a country has a clean West when they do that such work.
Oh, I understand. Okay. So represent and consistently, that makes sense.
I think we don't have a moderation, so Kevin, I see if this is.
I was just gonna like float in there for one. I was interested in like researching the topic. What are the challenges? Like it's something that's kind of like secretive, like it wasn't like kind of open. So what kind of challenges that represent in really getting a clear picture on the amount of people that's been affected by persecution?
Didn't get the question.
Oh, the question is, what are some of the challenges in researching this topic, where much of the identity has been sort of secretive, or kind of pushed away, not sort of, it becomes sort of a problem of getting like good numbers on like how many people were affected. And, so what are some of those challenges?
The challenges are that many documents have been destroyed at the end of the war. And the others, as I told, many people or many gay men who have been prosecuted under paragraph 175 at the National Socialist time are even very old now or died before. And they lived a life in secret. They wanted to talk about that. And even if we had this rehabilitation in 2017 and tried to find older men to give them their rehabilitation, it was very difficult. They have a life in such a fear, so they don't want to mention this topic again.
Hi, everybody. Luck has it that the entire building lost internet. So it's the entire campus.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. So the entire campus just lost internet. So we're all very excited about that. Thankfully, it's nothing we did this one time, right? Yeah, I thank you for going on with questions. I think that was really great. Let's just keep going. Yeah, excellent. I have a microphone on my cell phone, so I'm like holding my microphone so everybody here can hear you as well. So, hey, we improvise. Yeah, it's okay. I think it's okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna bug off. I think Jordan had a question in the meantime.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the talk and all of the background information. And I really liked how it ended with such a simple and pure message at the end, like, you know, the ultimate goal of all of this. And I was wondering if there are any parallel organizations that you are involved with in Austria or in Switzerland or in any other German-speaking countries, or you know, if you could say a little bit about similar issues in those countries.
Yes, sure. We have partnership with the organizations in Austria and in Switzerland, and maybe you've heard Switzerland, I think 2 weeks ago, opened gay marriage after a very, very long time. I think they are nearly one of the last democratic Western Western European states. But we have a special network in Western Europe, organized from the North European Netherlands. And so let's say all those countries which are now on a nearly equal law level, we try to help our Eastern Europe activist partners, which are now under really great pressure. I mentioned Poland and Hungary, and yes, there is a network, and there are
Anybody have questions in the meantime? If you got any, let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody in the room has any questions? Okay. Any more Zoom questions? Okay. Barb put one in the hi. Has the law changed to allow same-sex couples to adopt? Barbara would like to know. Oh goodness.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, it changed, but we have still a little problem with the parentage of female same-sex couples, because in the law written in Germany, you must have one father and one mother, and with it's really a bureaucratic problem, but we need in the end to have a new parentage law at the moment, but adoption is possible, like the same as like a heterosexual couple. Yes, it's now. So the marriage rights are totally equal to heterosexual couples.
Thank you, Ale. Axel, wow, I'm okay, I promise. So Axel, would you say that voting is important?
Didn't get what is important? Sorry.
Voting? Is voting important?
Very nice question. Yes, it is important. It's most important to get those radicals out of the parliaments, and it's really it's a shame for really after our history that we have such a right extremist party in our parliament. And but perhaps we always said, oh, that wouldn't happen never again in Germany, and this was a little too dreamy. We always have a percentage of people who are who are in favor of those people, and voting is very important. And we are happy that we have coalition talks now, but only among democratic parties. And we don't know if it will be Mr. Scholz, what is nearly the nearest outcome. But even if Mr. Laschet will be the next chancellor, this won't be a hurt of our democracy.
Thank you. Any more questions? Any more questions here? Okay. Okay, 1 second. You get the phone, I guess.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here under these, what for us turned out to be rather irregular circumstances of us losing our internet and now conducting the rest of this via Andrea's phone. But I want to thank everyone online who attended, thank everyone here in person, and most of all, thank you to Axel for a very informative and at sometimes painful to learn about history. So we are very, very happy that you could be here with us and spend this time with us, especially considering that for you it is now after 10 p.m. So thank you for not staying up late. I'm sure you'd already be up, but for having to be on and engaged after 9 p.m. in the evening. I know that I would struggle with that myself. So just very much appreciate having you here and very much appreciate that we were able to not only share this event with our campus community, but also share it with people on other campuses and at home, in their homes. And so, yeah, thank you. And
thank you so much from Germany.
We have some swag. Something, okay, we don't have an internet connection, but we have swag, okay? So we have some cool swag from, where's it from, Andrea? Oh, the AATG. We got some cool, well, I'm modeling, we have vote, get out the vote masks. I'm modeling one, also representing NKU with my black and gold. So yeah, let's give virtually and here in the room, let's give a round of applause for our speaker, Axel Hochrein.
Thank you.
And Andrea, do you have any final words?
I just wanted to say thank you, Axel. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. We learned a lot, that is for sure. And I'll be sure to get the recording ready so we can rewatch as well, and I'll share it later on with everybody. Sounds good?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to you all. Have a good time. Take care of you and stay healthy.
Everybody. Tschüss, Dankeschön.